I am Dana, and please ignore how messy both my hair and room are. I'm gonna sort them after I've done this, but if I don't do this now, it's just not gonna get done. So, I want to talk about ending relationships as an autistic person, because it's something I've sort of actually done a couple of times now, and I feel weird about it. I feel very, very odd about it. And I want to really go in and talk about it, because it's just another one of those things where a lot of the assumption from medical professionals is that we're never going to have any sort of relationship as autistic people, so it's just not really spoken about anyway. And then personally, as I've gone looking for it, I've just sort of found lots and lots of people in really happy relationships, and I'm like, that's lovely, I'm happy for you. Not my experience though. So it's just another video of me being like, anybody else feel like this? Anybody else do this thing? Because I'm not seeing anything about it, and I'd like to know that it's not just me. So this video, I'm saying relationships in the broad sense of the term, because I've ended both romantic relationships and also relationships with my family. And I haven't really cut out any friends because I didn't really have any friends, and now I have good friends, so I don't have to worry about cutting friends out. But yeah, so we're not going to talk about ending friendships because I've never really done that. Friendships have always ended very naturally as we've grown apart, or with a massive argument for me. So we're focusing on romantic and familial relationships, basically, is what I'm saying. Because I feel like I've noticed a bit of a trend in how I treat relationships that aren't working, essentially. Bad relationships, toxic relationships, relationships where I don't need to be around that person anymore. It's not benefiting either of us to have a relationship at this point, and it's been there for a while. That's what I do. I let it get to that point, and then I sort of sit on it and wait, because I don't want to end relationships with people. I'd like to think the best of everyone. I assume that everyone genuinely loves me and genuinely wants a relationship with me if they've formed one and maintained one, So my first romantic relationship lasted for 8 years, and for the last 6 of them I was consistently I should probably end this, I should probably break up with this guy, I'm not happy in this relationship. I don't think I like him an awful lot as a person, but because of family trauma that we'll get into in a bit when we talk about familial relationships, I was very it doesn't matter if you like someone or not, it matters if you love them. I definitely loved him, I'd put many years and a lot of effort and love and care and affection into this relationship, into this man. So I was I might not like him very much anymore, I might not think he treats me very nicely, I might overall not be happy in this relationship, but I love him, so I've got to stick around. And then this is where I know not that many people are likely to relate. I don't know, maybe they will, I don't know. But I then got a girlfriend while I was still with him, and people always oh, but it was it was literally just polyamory. It was literally just all consensual, it was all fine. Everyone for some of the time got along. It was all out in the open, nothing dodgy, And that was just immediately a much nicer relationship. She was a lot nicer to me than my boyfriend was. It was just way fucking nicer, because it wasn't a horribly abusive relationship, But it wasn't. But because I hadn't had a relationship before my boyfriend at the time, that was my first experience of oh, things can be way nicer than I've been getting. Things can be way better than I've had for the last 8 years. And I really needed that prompt. I don't think I'd have broken up with him. I was talking about marriage and kids and stuff with this dude. We'd looked at engagement rings. I don't think I'd have left him had it not been for experiencing a relationship that was much nicer than the one I'd had with him. But even then, I had several months where I was crying every day and feeling guilty and awful and horrific, because I was I'm leading this guy on at this point. I had mentally fully exited the relationship. I was I'd been with him for a really long time, so I was still I have a lot of love for this person and I wish him all the best, but I've also completely checked out. I don't like the way that he treats me as a person. I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. But I just when do you find the right time to tell someone I don't want to be with you after we've planned a whole future together? There's no good time for that. So I just sat on it, knowing that I didn't want to be in this relationship and contributing nothing emotionally to it anymore. I was still cleaning up after him and tidying up after him and being screamed at by him, but I wasn't emotionally invested or involved in the relationship realistically. So it had to get to a point of him being what are we doing? Because it feels like we're just avoiding each other and living in the same house, but not actually even friends, never mind in a relationship. And that was when I was okay, here's the right time. If someone else has brought it up, it's being spoken about, I can now say my piece. But like, if he hadn't brought it up, if like everything hadn't fallen into place the way that it had, I would have just fucking stayed with him forever. Because how do you end a relationship? And that was what I did with my family as well, really, more or less. I'm going chronologically to like my timeline of things, and I cut off my family before I broke up with my girlfriend, so we are going on to familial breakups, I suppose. Right in the middle of talking about romantic ones, just, it's how my brain's working, keep up. I'm sorry. So, my family was the kind of way where, as like a 12 to 13 year old, I found out you could move out at 16 legally, and I was like, I'm gonna do that. I don't want to be around these people. I want out as fast as I can, and I don't want to speak to these people ever again. But also, as much as I was convinced of that and did move out at 16, I was like, getting out, lads. That's how I ended up in the 8-year-long relationship, because I was like, I need to move out. This 21-year-old man's going to help me do that as a 16-year-old. It's all working out really well. But obviously, like, your family's your family, and there's constant, like, societal messaging of, like, blood's thicker than water. You have to, like, do what you can for your family. Family is everything. So even though I'd moved out, and I did, like, massively distance myself, like, I was seeing my mum once every couple of months, and my dad around, like, a little bit more often, but not by much. Because it was just constant stress and drama and chaos and a bad time around my family, frankly. So me cutting them off and ending that relationship was literally, like, over 10 years in the making, essentially. Like, it was well over a decade of me recognising, like, these, like, despite them being my family, they're not treating me like family, they're not treating me like someone they care about. I'm just general dog's body. Like, if no one else wants to do it, Dana will. Like, I'm not being treated in a kind way. I'm not being treated the way that I believe you should treat people that you love. It's not the way I treat people that I love. It's not how I treat them. So it's, you know, I had it all figured out, but I was still like, but they're my family. It's what you do for your family. That's the way families are. And then my mum had a big medical emergency, and almost the entirety of the emotional labour of my mother having 2 types of cancer and a brain tumour was put onto me. Like, I had to be the one, like, both of my brothers are older than me. One of my brothers, we just didn't even tell what was going on for a long time, because we were like, he won't deal with it emotionally, it won't be a good time, he's just going to add a lot of extra stress. And my middle brother thought that he was doing way more than anybody else by driving me back and forth to the hospital to go in and deal with my mother. It was a fucking rough time. She was having, like, delusions. It was mentally very traumatic. Like, it's fucked up to walk into a hospital room and be like, oh, thank God my mother's here. It's been 3 days of, like, trying to find out where she is and if she's okay. For your mum to look you in the eyes and be like, you're not my daughter, I don't know who you are. You know, I took on a massive amount of emotional damage, quite frankly, throughout the whole situation. And I was really struggling to hold myself together whatsoever. And they didn't care, like, at all. Like, they just didn't care. And after, you know, over a decade of constantly being like, maybe I shouldn't talk to these people, like, they've upset me with this and they've upset me with this and this other thing's happened and there's this repeated toxic behaviour, you know, it all just came to a massive head, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is gonna be the end of me. Like, my emotional, like, mental well-being was just completely gone. And when I tried to explain that to them, they were just like, oh, how do you think we feel? Well, everyone else is having a hard time too. You know, there was no empathy or care or compassion from me. It was just deal with it because everyone else is. And it's like, okay, but not everyone else is autistic and already depressed and also just ended an 8-year relationship and just having all of this shit, you know, all the time. So again, I carried on doing what I was doing for a couple of months until it was like I just mentally could not do it anymore, combined with I had, like, checked out. Like, I'd go up, and previously, like, my family are a very typical working class British family. They're racist twats, so I already had innumerable issues. And what we did when I went over was sit in the back garden, smoke and drink coppers and chat about shit. And I would sit there and just listen to hours and hours of conversation about things I didn't agree with, and just, like, bigotry and gross shit that I really, like, did not agree with. And I just increasingly, like, not only mentally checked out, but started to just really dislike them. Like, especially my brother. I've never had a strong relationship with my brother, but, like, to sit there and have your mother, like, talk about trans rights and gay shit and like queer stuff that's going on and race issues and that, and just show that they're actually a terrible fucking person and they'd be fine with your friends just like dying, you know? Like, how do you stick with that? You fucking can't. But again, I was like, there's no good moment to turn around and say to my family, I think you're horrible people, and I don't want to in any way be associated with the thoughts and opinions that you have as people, combined with I think you treat me horribly and don't want to be around you in any sort of way. Like, there's no good time to say that. So I just sat and waited and waited and waited. And eventually my mum got really frustrated with me not being happy, smiley and my usual self. And rather than, you know, like be worried because I'm not my usual self at all and I'm clearly really struggling, she was just annoyed that I wasn't like faking it to make her happy. So it blew up into a gigantic argument, and I stormed, like, my mum asked for a house key back because I was going up every single day, so I had a key to the house to let myself in. She asked for it back and I was like, fine, you can have this back and I'm not coming back. And that was over a year ago and I haven't been back, and I don't intend to speak to them again. And it's one of those things where sometimes I get cripplingly sad about it. Like, I can just sit and sob, and it's, you know, it's so fucking painful. But when I'm in a more like mentally stable place and can like really process and think about it, I don't miss them as people. I'm not actually upset to not have them in my life anymore. I'm upset that I don't have a mother who is accepting and understanding and kind and shows me love and empathy and compassion and things that I think a mother should show a daughter. I'm upset that I don't have the mother-daughter relationship I see from other people and that I see on like television and the like, you know? I'm upset by the things that I was missing out on anyway by not having a good family. So I'm not actually missing anything extra by not having them there. I'm if anything avoiding people thinking that I'm like them in some way. I'm avoiding having to listen to like really toxic, horrible views. I'm benefiting from not having them in my life realistically, but it still just feels shitty and horrible sometimes. And I wanted to mix that in with this video because I don't feel like that after ending romantic relationships. I broke up with my girlfriend in early to mid-February, I think. I'd sat on it for a long time. For me, I hadn't sat on it for a long time. I'd sat on it for like maybe like 2 or 3 months. And, you know, like, I feel like it was too long and she probably deserved me to do it a little bit sooner, and I would have benefited from doing it sooner. But considering I spent 8 years in a last relationship with like 6 of them being like, I don't like this, I feel like just sitting on it for a few months, like, I have learned and processed and thought about things, and I am doing better in that regard, you know? And like, the relationship was just not going well. It was just sort of on the rocks. She was trampling over my fucking boundaries and not respecting me. And we'd had multiple occasions of like her upsetting me or her doing things that I considered to be like bad, like not bad behaviour, but like shitty behaviour, you know? I was just like, why would you do this to me when you're meant to love and care about me? I don't get what's going on and I'm upset, and you're telling me you're upset that I'm upset, but not acknowledging that I'm upset, and telling me you want to support me more but not actually offering any support. Like, you know, it was just on the rocks. It wasn't going well. We'd had a few situations and I really wanted to do it in person. Like, I think having like limited relationship experience, a lot of my thoughts and like opinions and morals and whatever on relationships are formed from like movies and TV shows and books. So I was very like, you don't break up with someone over the phone. You don't, like, that's gross. But for our entire, like, I don't know why I feel so like nervous to say anything about it. For our entire relationship, I was lucky to see her more than once a week. So it already didn't feel like all that much of a relationship to me. And then as it got rockier, and she fucking knew what she was doing, I think she knew that she was like essentially sabotaging the relationship and making me not like her. So as that happened more and more, we started seeing each other less and less. And it got to a point of like, I haven't seen her in like 2 weeks and I don't want to be in this relationship anymore, you know? Like, I don't want to have to like wake up in the morning to a message from them, pretend everything's okay through the day and be like, oh yes, love you too. When like, I don't like this person anymore and I don't like the way they're treating me. And yeah, so I really wanted to just see her and break up with her, but we didn't fucking see each other. So I had to do it over the phone, and I feel quite shitty about that. I don't like that I did it over the phone, But given the reaction and the conversation that happened, I think it's for the best that I did in the end. But that phone conversation was one of the times like that I've felt the most autistic in my entire life. Because, you know, I'm breaking up with someone. It's been a year and a bit of a relationship where, like, you know, we've said that we've loved each other, we've like hung out. We didn't even go on that many dates. I got like a spa package weekend trip we were meant to go on that just never happened. Like, it's like there's a lot of ways in which I'm like, was this a relationship or was I just being like strung along? But yeah, she was my girlfriend, I'll give it that much. But yeah, I felt like just so incredibly autistic to have this person crying and thanking me for everything, and I'm sat there not really saying anything because I was like, the last several months of this relationship has been horrible for me. And the more I told my friends, the more they were like, that's not an okay way to treat you. And I was like, is it not? Because it's better than my ex treated me. And they were like, yeah, but that doesn't make it good. Like, it just, by the time we were actually breaking up, I felt so little towards the whole relationship, you know, and just felt like so left behind. Like, I just like, you know, in the time that I'd been with her, I'd broken up with an extremely long-term relationship, had like a whole sexuality discovery, moved house, like stopped talking to all of my family. The people that were in my life are people that I've only known for like 6 months or something. Like, my entire life has changed. And she's just like, oh my gosh, I wish I could support you more. And I'm like, here's ways you could I don't need to just bitch about the relationship. What I'm saying is just like, enough had happened that I really didn't feel much of an emotional like tug towards the relationship anymore. I didn't really feel an awful, I don't want to be like, I didn't feel much towards her, because like I'd spent a year and a bit being like, I'm in love with this girl, I love her so much, she's the best thing that's ever happened to me, she's brilliant, she's great. And realising someone isn't as great as you like built them up to be and thought they were because of the way you've been treated in the past and shit is just a whole different fucking thing. But like, I thought that this breakup was gonna like break me. Like, I was in love with this girl, you know, like I really fucking adored him. So I thought this breakup was gonna like really fucking damage me. I bought, you can see it on my door there, I bought like a little like floor length pink robe that was gonna be like my breakup robe, like off Flag Means Death, for when I moped around the house being upset about my breakup. I bought ice cream. Like, I thought this was gonna be my like big first like proper emotional breakup, because my last breakup I was just like, fuck yourself kind of thing. I thought this was going to be the one that was like the TV breakup, eating ice cream in the bath and crying, and it was a massive fucking relief. I felt so much better for having broken up with her. I think it was literally either like the night I broke up with her or the night after I went to a friend's place and I was like, oh, by the way guys, I broke up with my girlfriend, and they were like, woo! Like, they were very happy for me. Like, it basically felt like a fucking celebration, because like I just put so much love and effort and work and like adoration for her and shit into this relationship, and it didn't work out. But that's what I mean, and that's why it feels really autistic, because like I had such strong emotions towards her while we were in the relationship. Like, I remember laying next to her and watching her sleep and shit and being like, I've never loved anyone like this. Like, fuck, like the amount of love that I'm able to feel for this person is insane. And all it took was her like upsetting me and hurting me and you know, being a bit shitty. And all it took. But you know what I mean? Like, the logic of my autistic brain and like the black and white thinking, once she'd done enough to the point of like, I don't think this is like a mistake anymore, you know, like I feel like this is her intentionally hurting me, or if not intentionally hurting me, it's intentional that she's now upset for having upset me, and we're not approaching the fact that I've been upset by her and shit like that. Once my brain can sort of like chronologically lay that out, it's like it just turns off my emotions, and I'm just like, you clearly don't care about me, because this is not how I would treat someone that I care about. So I don't see how you'd care about me and treat me like this, so I just don't care anymore. It just goes. And it makes me feel kind of bad, because I had like a hot minute where I was like have I ever been in love? Like, I've put a lot of time and love and shit into these relationships, and have I ever actually been in love? Because surely if I was in love, it would upset me when these people are no longer in my life versus feeling like a relief or whatever. But like, that's where keeping journals is really fucking handy, because I can look back and be like, no, like, I was in love. But the autistic brain can also just very logically be like, that's not how you treat someone that you love. So if you're not going to treat me like you love me, I'm gonna go and try and find someone who fucking does, you know? But yeah, basically we've got half an hour here of me being like, so do other autistic people turn off your feelings towards people? Like, not intentionally, just like your brain automatically flips the switch and turns off your feelings about people once they've fucked you over or not. Basically, do other people have this? Is this a thing? Because that's how I feel like that's what happens. And I'll get upset, like, or like feel sad or feel a bit lonely or whatever else, and be like, oh, I wish I had a good mum, I wish I had a good relationship. But it's like, I don't want the relationships that I did have, you know? So I don't really feel that much about the people that are in my past, because it's just that I wanted that type of relationship, and the person that it was with might have really, really mattered at the time, but there's reasons that the relationship didn't work out, and my brain's very like, just like, well, there's the reason, so you don't need to care about it anymore. And I don't know if it makes me a bit of a shitty person. I don't know. I just don't know how I feel a lot of the time, and it's kind of fucking weird. So yeah, that's why I want to make a video. I really hope someone else kind of gets what I mean and maybe has felt like this or feels like this, or like, somebody understand me, please. But yeah, that's the video. So you can follow me if you wanted to subscribe to me on YouTube. That'd be lovely. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. I've been posting a lot of TikToks about like family stuff and relationship stuff and autism stuff, like all the stuff that I talk about on my channel. So if you like me over here, you'll probably like me on TikTok if you want to follow me there. You can also become a YouTube member to get like extra bits. It'll all be explained if you can and go and look at it, you know. And you can also become a Patreon, where I post videos early and you get extra little bits, and there's gonna be all sorts over there, okay? It's gonna be an absolute party. But for now, whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.